with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, this is a rarity. We're on before 11 o'clock. You know?
We are on it this week.
Yeah. Usually it's like a minute or two because, Josh has to finish his smoke and all that. And, is that right?
Don't you know it?
Yeah, no, he doesn't smoke. You don't, right?
Not on the clock.
I'm not going on the clock. I'll get out of here. Anyway, I got Rich Hooper here from 88.3 The Journey. We're going to talk about the year end. We're going to talk about what's going on with Christian radio. Mm-hmm. Talk about some of the reminiscences we were discussing before the show started, because there's a lot of stuff on Facebook anyway. I don't know if it's in y'all's postings, but it's on mine, it's on his, it's older guys, about some of the, some retro stuff that, a lot of the older music. Mm-hmm. And I find that pretty interesting. So how you been?
I'm good.
You keeping cool as best you can.
Oh, as much as possible. I mean, it's just stay inside, right? As much as you have to.
Now, I don't remember. Are you a native Texan?
I am. Yeah,
that's right.
Born and raised in Collin County.
Collin County. I wasn't born there, but I was raised there more or less. And where'd you go to high school?
Prosper High School.
Prosper, but a lot
back
different.
In the day.
Back in the day, a lot different.
1,000 people population back then. Mm-hmm. 19 people in my graduating class. Yeah, it was a little different community back then.
Holy moly, 19 people. My wife's graduating class was 48, and they thought that's at Boyd, and they thought that was big. Now, of course, it's mega complex. Good grief, that whole area of Collin County.
Oh yeah.
I went to Plano Senior High School, which was the high school, high school.
Yeah.
And then Frisco and Allen and all that they were just, Allen was about 2,500 maybe. Frisco about maybe 500. Mm-hmm. And now look at it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
At last check, I think there's like 4 or 5 high schools in Prosper. And I'm like, okay. So when I went to school there, we were in the same building, elementary, and then there was a junior high and high school wing. We shared the same cafeteria.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just one building. I loved it because it was small enough that if they had a uniform for you, you could play the sport. You didn't really have to try out. And so it gave me opportunity to play football, basketball, and baseball. They forced me to run track, and I did that. But
well, that's an interesting point because I went to a mega big high school, and I wasn't certainly outstanding athlete, but whatever athlete I would have been, I really didn't have a chance. I always told the kids here in Burleson, you have a real opportunity because you're going to be able to do things that a lot of other kids can't. Mm-hmm. You go to the football team, you may not be starting anytime soon, but you're going to have a chance to play.
Sure.
For Plano, they would cut you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's a different deal. Anyway, we're going to talk about the sponsors right quick, and then we're going to jump right into it. I was at our place this morning, the usual great service, usual great food. Every other Monday, my Sunday schoolman and I talk, and usually we talk sports, but we've got a lot on our mind about what's going on in the world. And
it's hard to believe for you, Brad, that you got a lot on your mind.
I know. That's why you're entitled to my opinion, right?
You're right.
But as far as the world's concerns, tomorrow I was going to do a show on Iran, but it keeps changing what's going on over there, that by the time I get prepared for it, it's out of date, right? So I'm going to talk about some of the stuff I've been seeing about all the visitors we had for the World Cup.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I mean, and it's great for us because it gives us a new perspective, I think, on what's going on in this world. Also tonight, since my wife's prayer meeting last week got postponed till this week, I'll be at Gina's. I have to get out of the house. So once a month, the ladies, everybody every other Monday, they get together for prayer meeting, and about every 6 weeks, it's my wife's turn. And God bless her. It's like she's running around making sure every detail. It's like these ladies are going to come in with white gloves and inspect everything. Yeah. And have a little checklist or whatever on a clipboard. I'm like,
I know how it is, though. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, but that's what they do. And so I'll be at Gina's. I'll be watching, the Rangers will be on TV. I know the soccer will be on TV. You been watching much of the soccer?
A little bit, yeah. I don't know enough about soccer to know what's going on, but.
Well, I kind of do now.
Yeah.
But soccer is never going to take the place of football and baseball for me, or college sports. But I've really gotten to enjoy, over the last few years, professional soccer from Europe. One thing, it's on in the afternoons. So this old retired coots can see it. well, I don't want to get into all that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
I've still not been to Gina's. I've got to go to Gina's. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh, my goodness. it's a really good pizza and a great atmosphere. Tonight it's chess night, so you can go in there on a Monday night and you'll see about 7 or 8 chess games going on.
Oh, wow.
And then tomorrow night it's bingo night. And what I've been told is that you probably need to call ahead to make sure there's a seat because it's a big deal. Wednesday night's karaoke. And Sunday night they have live music. Last night they had Susie Morgan on. I don't know if you know Susie, but she and her husband are local musicians, and they do a lot of local stuff.
Yeah, have heard her, yeah.
Yeah, well, she's kind of a local celebrity. But anyway, on to the next step. They're all paying for this. So, all right, Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. It's always a good time to get your roof checked. It's a really good time when the weather isn't bad. So I don't know when the next time it's going to rain. The weather forecasters don't know when it's going to rain. So make sure, though, when it does rain, your roof's intact. And he'll tell you the truth. He won't tell you a big upsell, and he's not trying to.
That's important.
Well, it really is because we get a little jaded. Because oh my Lord, your roof, your plumbing, your car, whatever's about to fall apart. They try to upsell you, and I like honesty in business. For example, sorry, John, you're gonna pay for somebody else's ad for a minute. The Castrol guy down on John Jones. Every time I go there, he's not trying to sell me an air filter unless I need one. And he'll say, "Now you're good for another, 2 months, 3 months, whatever." So, that's the kind of business I want to do business with.
Well, the thing about roofing is if you don't know anything about roofs and that whole thing, then you really want to trust somebody that they're going to tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you something that's just a sales tactic.
Yes, exactly. So 817-734-2756, and the inspection is free. So he'll come in, takes about 10 minutes. There you go. Also, Jeff Kelly, my friend over at the Wedding Agency, I say it right. You ever do this on the air?
A little bit.
You're tongue-tied?
Yeah. It's all twisted.
Yeah. Weddington Agency, Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com or 817-781-0546. He's on about once a quarter. We talk about real estate. What's going on.
He's great at real estate, not so good at jokes.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Some of those jokes, they're groaners, aren't they?
Yeah, they're groaners.
Yeah.
I like them, though. I like groaners.
Yeah, that's fine. He also will be our new president of the B&I group when we shift over in October 1st, and I'll be the new vice president. I got roped into that. Whatever.
Yeah.
So 817-781-0546. Also, Rod Lewis got his newspaper this morning. They're talking about the 4th of July parade. And that's what I like about it. Get to read about the 4th of July parade. It's not on something online. And when you're drinking your coffee at Daydream, or you're getting your car worked on, or you're getting your hair done, or whatever it is you're doing, you can have a little time to peruse the news, what's going on locally. You probably talked to him a couple times, I'd imagine. Have you run into him in the chamber events?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so if you got some news for him, he'll be glad to talk to you about it. I can't guarantee what the response is because he's trying to avoid getting into like controversial issues.
Sure.
He's in that kind of thing, and I get it. So he'll leave that to me. Thank you, Rod. Also, my friends at True Climate, Will Cobb, Emily Cobb, his sister. 682-244-2019. Same thing like the roof. Check your air conditioner out because it goes out in July. You got a real problem. And they could probably head that off. Plus, they have a $99 a year warranty kind of thing where they can give you big discounts on inspections and new parts and whatever else. So True Climate.
I just had to have the drip pan on my AC unit replaced because it was the condensation. The drain line was getting backed up, and so it was water was sitting in the drip pan, and it was starting to rust. That would have been terrible had that.
Well, that happened to us on our previous unit about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It started overflowing and started dripping onto the roof, the ceiling, rather, not the roof, but the ceiling.
Yeah.
And that's how we knew something was going on. And so we had to get a new system this is before I knew True Climate. I think True Climate this is several years ago, so I don't know if True Climate was even in operation then. At least the Cobb version of it. And, yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
get it checked out.
Yeah. I don't know any, off the top, we have any ads for nonprofits. I do know beginning on Wednesday, it's going to be Christmas in July for Next Step Women's Center. Yeah, they'll be on, I bet they'll be talking to you.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be a drop-off location for them, and Megan's going to be coming by tomorrow, I believe, to bring the bin for us to, and we'll be talking about it on the air.
And they're going to be on the show in about 2.5 weeks. I think like 2 weeks from Thursday or something like that. I don't have their calendar in front of me, but it doesn't matter. So let's talk about 88.3 The Journey. We still have the logo, don't we, Josh? There you
Look at
go.
that.
Just leave it up there. It looks good. All right. So you're having your year end.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for y'all?
So our fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th. And so we're wrapping up our fiscal year. So going to be closing the books for the year. And just like, any business, we want to make sure that we end the year in the black and not in the red. This year, it's been a little bit of a challenge. We had some expenses early on that we took on, hoping it would bring some return as far as giving, because we're non-commercial, listener supported. 20% of our income is from businesses that support us, but 80% is listener support. So people who listen, they enjoy the music, they receive ministry and encouragement from the station. Well, then they'll in return give $30 a month, one-time gifts, and so that's the bulk of our support. So mid-year, right around December or January, we had to make some changes to cut some of our expenses because giving had not been tracking along the way we wanted to.
What do you think that is?
I think a lot of it was economy.
Yeah.
There was some life issues. We had some major donors that had some life issue events that they couldn't give, but then we also picked up some new donors, and most of the time your new donors are going to start at a lower level of giving, your $10, $20, $30 a month. And then, so I think that's what it was. And then, like I say, we took on some expenses that we thought would help increase our giving, and they really weren't. So we had to make some adjustments mid-year.
Come to think of it, I should have wore that T-shirt you sent me. It's sitting in my closet.
Oh, yeah.
I work
Team
in
360.
I use it to work in the yard.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's great. That's great.
But the point is that the giving has been down a little bit, and I've been talking to other nonprofits, and they're not flashing the red alert signal yet, but it's just keeping an eye on it. And I do believe a lot of it's the economy, because you go to the store, maybe buy $100 worth of groceries to give to one of the food pantries. It doesn't go as far as it used to.
Yeah,
and I could just tell by my credit card bills about how. I mean, Robin and I aren't spending anything exorbitant or have anything extravagant at all, but it just goes up.
Yeah, just the regular cost of doing business. A lot of the subscriptions and things that we use, the services, the systems, a lot of them are going up because of it costs more to do what they do, and so that affects us. And so having to make those adjustments. So and this is probably boring for some people, but we made about $40,000 worth of cuts in expenses, some adjustments that we had to make, doing our part on that end, but then still we're just about $30,000 short of where we needed to be when we started June. And so we just we went on the air and talked about, hey, if you would like to help us close the gap, our goal is, we started out at $40,000, and then we had several people step up. And then this past Thursday, we did something we've never done before. We did what we call a 30K in a day studio takeover. And I was on the air for 12 hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., reminiscent of, remember the Jerry Lewis telethon days?
Oh, yeah.
When they would do that?
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was a little kid, I thought, I took it as a challenge to stay up and watch the whole thing. And who's this Shetty Green guy? And, these other guys, I had no idea, all these Vegas comics, but... I remember doing that.
It was reminiscent of that. I didn't quite do 24 hours. I don't know if I could do that. But
I don't know.
For 12 hours, I was on the air just giving people an opportunity, seeing if we could make history and raise $30,000 in one day. And we were pretty close. We were very close. We ended the day on Thursday at about $23,000, which was great. Now, over the weekend, we're sitting today where we've raised a little over $25,000. The big thing, too, is we had someone call us on Thursday and say, my family, we love the journey. We'd like to issue a $15,000 match. So basically, anybody who gives, we're going to match it up to $15,000. We have $2,400 of that left. So a lot of people have stepped up. So $2,400, basically, if you give today, it's going to be matched up to $2,400.
I've been talking to a lot of nonprofits over the years, and I have to admire the fact how dedicated y'all must be to do this, because you have 24/7 fundraising. I mean, you like to think it's doing good things for the community and giving food or shelter or whatever. What Next Step does for the women is incredible, or for families. But that's always a factor.
Sure.
Is the fundraising.
Well, there's this balance that I want us to walk at the journey. I don't want us to always be asking for money, but I do want to make sure that people know that we're listener supported.
Yes.
Now, you know, a lot of the stations that you listen to, they're running commercials. So they're running, 10, 12 minutes worth of commercials every hour. So we don't have to do that, thankfully. But we do need to make sure that we're, number one, letting people know that we are listener supported. And then when there's a need, I think it's good stewardship to let people know, hey, there is a need. And if you can help, we'd love for you to do that. And we've had people over the last month, new givers, people who are lapsed donors, people who gave before but haven't given in a while. They've stepped up and started giving. So it's been great response.
Well, the only station that I think is similar to y'all's is KXT over in Dallas. You familiar with them?
I am.
All right. And they do the same thing. They do listener drives and whatever else and whatnot. And, it's just part of the deal. I'd rather hear that than 8 or 9 commercials from the same people apparently.
Yeah.
And those commercials are expensive, by the way. I had a friend that I was trying to kind of talk into sponsoring here. And he said, well, I'm going to talk about advertising on the radio station. It was one of the bigger stations in Dallas, and it was a 6-month guarantee contract, $80,000.
Wow.
That was for the minimum airplay, like 8 to 12 times a day. And that was the minimum they could sign for. That's a lot of money.
It is.
But I like the fact that when my wife and I get in the car, it almost always says, "Oh, don't turn the sound down. I like this song," and that kind of thing. And,
that's great.
And I could see what it does for her because it's not just entertaining music. It's also very ministering to her.
Absolutely. We hear this all the time. The right song at the right time. People will tell us. One lady said, I just walked out of the hospital. My daughter passed away unexpectedly from a brain aneurysm. She was 35 years old.
Good heavens.
Got into the car, turned on the radio, and the song Mercy Me, It Is Well, kind of a remake of It Is Well With My Soul based on their movie they did. That song came on, and she said, I just sat there and wept, and it ministered to me. Still, I've been doing this almost 40 years. I'm still amazed at how God uses radio to speak to someone right when they need to hear it.
Sure.
Because we're not that smart. We can't say, okay, we know that Grace is going to be listening at this time, so let's play this song at this time. We don't know that, but God does.
Well, it happens, I could tell you, because I don't know what was going on exactly with Robin, but she was upset about something. Well, I do know, but I don't want to get into it. Sure. It's not my fault, though. It wasn't me.
This time it wasn't.
Anyway, but some song come on that was very uplifting to her, and she felt better. And it also helped her talk about what was bothering her. And so it really does do a great service. And I hope you hear that enough because, working in the nonprofit sector, you're not going to get rich quick, are you?
Sure.
And you have to, you do it because it's your calling.
Yep.
It's what sustains you and all that. And so you need to be sustained.
Well, every business knows they're successful when the goals that they set forth are being accomplished. Our mission is to provide that encouragement through Christian music. So when we hear people tell us, I was encouraged by this song, or, even my wife and I host the morning show, something you guys said that we just planned, we know, because we've been doing this a long time, that the Holy Spirit will lead us. But sometimes, to be honest with you, I schedule something for us to talk about because I think, this is the time when we can talk about it. To me, it fits in with my plan. But then Tanya and I will talk about something, and someone will say, hey, you mentioned that, and that's exactly what I needed to hear.
And like any music, you hear a song, it brings back memories. And we were talking about this before the show as well. On my Facebook feed, and sometimes yours, I'm getting a lot of postings reminiscing about the early days of Christian music, at least the way we listen to it, contemporary Christian music. And I just happened to be in a crowd that really got into it in the late 70s. And then I go to Baylor, and there's more people like that. And also Word Music used to be there. And you'd have debut concerts when a new album came out. Some of the bands I didn't know of, some of them I heard of. I met Randy Stonehill there. Do you remember a band called Servant?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, they had a couple albums out, right? And they had their debut album or second album debut, and they had concerts. So I was surrounded by that. And I think a lot of that has been sparked by that movie, with Kelsey Grammer's movie,
Jesus Revolution.
Right.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Christian music is now established long enough that they have a backlog of material, as opposed to a lot of people have been listening to it for 60 years or something like, or 50 years at least, like I have, and they have a depth of understanding or enough backlog so they can remember the songs from the 70s and early 80s and things like that, just like you do with any other genre. Y'all play any of that?
We don't. No, we play more of the current. But every Friday at 8:30, every Friday morning at 8:30, on Rich and Tony in the Morning, we do what we call the Friday Flashback. And so we'll go back and look at a song that's 20, 25 years ago. We did play the other day. We played one from second chapter of Acts, the Easter song.
Oh yeah,
and man, that goes back.
It does go back. Yeah, I know that song, and Keith Green redid it. And or is it Keith Green that wrote it, or did they write it?
No, I think he wrote it.
He wrote it. Okay,
and then they did it.
Yeah, you and I were talking before the show, but for our first concerts, it wasn't my very first concert, but it was yours with Keith Green and Daniel Amos.
Yeah.
And
1978.
Yeah, in the Bronco Bowl, which is long since gone.
Wow.
It's been plowed under. But that's what I like about it, because we were really wanting something different in my high school years. I mean, we still liked Ted Nugent and Aerosmith and the usual stuff. We listened to that too. But we as young Christians were, to be real frank about it, kind of bored with Christian music.
Yeah.
All right. Even the stuff that wasn't hymns, I'd rather hear good hymn than some of the stuff that passed as contemporary Christian music, because it was just so watered down.
Yeah.
And it was, it made John Denver look like a hard rocker, and it didn't talk to me at all. And it didn't talk to any of my friends. And then you started getting some, these artists and bands playing stuff that we could relate to, like Larry Norman, like Randy Stonehill, Daniel Amos. I mentioned that band. It's still one of my favorites. Keith Green, had some good stuff, on and on. And so it spoke to us. Now, I remember my parents kind of giving me the raised eyebrow when I played Christian music at a loud volume. I'm like, is that really Christian?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we're talking about, it's about as hard as maybe, I don't know, the Eagles or something like that. We're not talking about, Metallica here.
Yeah. Until Stryper came around and some of the other groups. But the whole dynamic of, Christian music was church music. It was the hymns. It was done primarily with piano and organ, choir. So anything that brought, especially drums. I remember, because I'm a drummer, right? I remember early on, a lot of churches would not allow a drum set in the church or a lead guitar, because they were like, oh, no, that's of the devil.
That's exactly right. Well, I wouldn't say our church took quite that attitude. There were a handful of people that thought that. We were a spinoff church from the larger Baptist church in Plano, a plant church. And when we started going that direction, some of the older folks went back to home, back to the mothership, right?
Yeah.
But, and it wasn't like today, you go to, like ours at First Baptist, it's very contemporary. And people my age grew up like that.
Yeah.
But I do remember back when I was in high school, it was a big deal if you had other than piano and organ.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't exactly like we were rocking out on Sunday morning.
But we were talking about before the show that it began to really open up ministry to the younger generation.
It did. Absolutely.
A lot of the teenagers, young adults, they were starting to come back to church because the music was more relevant to them stylistically, but yet the messages were still strong. Still great message.
Very strong messages. And, Larry Norman was really the first artist that I connected with. I remember I went to a friend's house. I was like a freshman in high school maybe, and he played a song off one of his albums. I'm like, that's fantastic. That's I don't know. Do you know Larry Norman songs?
I do. Well, I'm familiar with him. I don't know if I could tell you his song.
Oh, I don't know the song. It really said, this is the first time I really connected with a Christian song was I'm the 6 o'clock News was the name of the song. It's off his second album. I get all the titles mixed up, but actually made several albums, and he had this blues lick going on. I thought, holy, this is it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it helped me explore, and then you get Daniel Amos, and you got Randy Stonehill, and you had other groups and singers like that.
Mm-hmm.
And DeGarmo and Key was another one I liked.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, now this is going to be something I could relate to. And not only that, but also if I want to share the faith with somebody else, it would be a connecting point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's a song that, you know, here's a band, here's an album you might want to listen to, because it was a way of opening the door to other conversations.
Mm-hmm. I started in radio in 1988. I wasn't working in Christian radio then.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start working in Christian radio till 93. But even in the mid to late 80s, you know, you really started seeing more contemporary Christian music kind of coming around, you know, with Amy Grant's and, then in the 90s, Stephen Curtis Chapman and all those kind of artists. You really begin to see broadened, you know, but before then it was really more of the rock style, folk, more of a folk rock sound, but it really began to broaden in the 80s and then even in the 90s. And now there's so many, the genre is so wide with contemporary Christian music.
Right.
There's a lot of different styles.
It's not channeled into one or two lanes. You know, Daniel Amos is a good example, because they start off as a country rock kind of band, and then by the third album they were playing like Eagles style rock, and then they kind of, you know, went with the times and started playing some new wave and some alternative style music, and it was just, I just thought it was good. And then you started getting some of the heavier bands like Resurrection Band. That isn't not for everybody. All right. And I don't. You ever heard of a group called Barnabas?
No.
Okay, they were a kind of a punk band, really good, but they had all these internal issues, and so they had about 3 or 4 albums, and I have 2 of them. And their music's hard to get. You can only get it on YouTube. But that was the kind of thing, that kind of experimentation that bands in the 80s were going through. Yeah, they were embracing, other styles, and they weren't being scared off because of the type of music it was. And then you mentioned Stryper, with the hair band routine.
Yeah. Why should the devil have all the good music? You know?
That's an old Larry Norman song. And so I just thought, I look at it now. Robin likes it better than I do. All right, because I like the variety,
sure,
and the willingness to experiment. And I don't know if you get that as much not because the music's not as good or anything like that, but because of the nature of the radio industry itself. Okay, which we could talk about too, because you have how many companies are involved in, let's just say, Christian music? Yeah, a small handful, right?
In the Dallas area?
Yeah.
There's 5 Christian stations in Dallas.
Right.
3 of them are what we call national networks, and then there's a local station in Dallas that is owned by First Baptist Dallas, and they do teaching and talk and music. KCBI, yeah. And then we're the 5th station. We are locally owned. We're the only station in town, though, that's locally owned and operated that plays 24/7 contemporary Christian music. So we're all music. We don't do any long-form teaching programs.
Right.
And so we're kind of unique in what we do. And so that's kind of made us to think, okay, we really would like to be able to expand more into the Metroplex. Now, we do have an app, and you can listen online, and our online listening has increased by 60% over this last year. We're promoting people listening anywhere in North Texas through our app. But there's opportunities for us to, with what's called a translator or other frequencies, where we can expand. It's just expensive, and so
yes, it is.
We have to, you'd have to have some support from donors that would help you get that going.
You mentioned that the last time I hear that you were looking to expand the signal.
Yeah.
But my point is what's happening in Christian music is what's happened in secular music. I mean, you turn on, 92.5, and you're going to get the same Tom Petty song you heard 30 minutes ago. I mean, it's a very narrow playlist.
Yeah.
And it's like on and, it's so tedious, and that's how I haven't listened to secular radio, music radio in a long time. It's like if I want to listen to music, I listen to stuff I've selected, and that's probably your biggest competitor. Is not so much 92.5 or the Eagle or whatever, but probably Spotify.
Yeah, any kind of on-demand listening is really a competitor, people competing for people's ears. But radio listening, it's interesting because research has shown that radio listening has not decreased as rapidly as people thought it would after on-demand. Satellite radio was kind of the first thing that was threatening terrestrial radio. That didn't really. Some people did it, but you have to have a subscription to that. So not everybody went to satellite radio. But then on-demand listening through Pandora and Spotify and some of the others platforms came on the scene. But radio still has a pretty big impact, especially for commuters, because they not only hear the songs that they like, but because of the announcers that are on the air can become friends. You connect with them. It's like building a community with someone that's on the air with you.
I listen to The Fan, the sports talk show, and it's like I've been listening to them. Like I know these guys personally, and I wouldn't know what they look like if they walked in the door.
Yeah.
But my problem with The Fan is what I have a lot of problem with other stations, and it is the lengthy breaks between material.
Yeah.
And if they act, and I used to listen to another sports talk show about a decade ago, and I got tired of the locker room humor and the junior high antics, and then 12 minutes of commercials.
Yeah.
So, that was a part of it. But my concern about the radio stations is that you're just going to have such a conglomeration that basically anything new is going to have a very difficult time breaking through. And you say, well, you got YouTube, you got other access, you can put it on the internet and all this other stuff. It's still pretty hard to break through, even with that.
Yeah, there's so many people out there that are putting out. I will see someone. In fact, I was watching a video of Vince Gill this weekend, and he was doing like a podcast with somebody, and he featured a gentleman, I can't remember his name, a young man, on one of his songs on his album. And the guy hosting the podcast asked him, "Where did you find him?" He said, "I was scrolling through and saw him singing, and I saw that he was friends with a friend of mine. I reached out to my friend." So he called this guy and had him come sing on his album. But the way he discovered him was just Vince Gill was scrolling through and saw him singing. So there's so much of that, and there's a lot of good talent. You listen to somebody that's this nobody that nobody knows, but they're putting songs out on YouTube, and you're like, this person's good.
Oh yeah, there's a local country guy named Brock DeWald, and he's been on the show before. I worked with his wife Jordan, and we talked about how difficult it was. He got you could buy his music on iTunes, and I did that on the air. Always kind of fun, and you can get it on Spotify. But it's not. The ability to explore and listen and find new music is harder now in a sense because it's just so much of it out there.
Yeah,
and you got to take the time to do it. The radio isn't going to do it for you. You got to go in and, you talk about Vince who's scrolling through this stuff. Not everybody's quite as curious as Vince Gill.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of people just, it's what it is. And if I don't like it, I'll just put on Spotify playlist. And that's what you're competing with, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We add 1 to 2 new songs a week, but the songs that we add have probably been released for about 6 months just because there's such a backlog of, if we added every new song that came out, then a lot of the songs that we play would be unfamiliar to our listeners. So here's the other fine line that we walk as programmers is we want to play your favorite songs. So, but if our library was too big, then you would never hear your favorite song because when people listen to the radio, typically they're listening at 15 to 20 minutes at a time.
Right.
There's not a lot of people that listen all day long, And so in order for you to hear your favorite song or a song that you like, we have to narrow that playlist so that within that 15 or 20 minutes, the likelihood of you hearing a song that you like is greater because of that. And we do testing with we have a music team for the Journey. You can actually go to our website and find out how to be on the music team to take a survey, I think once or twice a month. And we put these songs out and you listen to these hooks and you tell us what you think about the song. That helps us to know what songs people want to hear more, people want to hear less.
But in your case also, it's not just a matter of popularity. You also have to kind of be careful about the content.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you're going to get explicit stuff and all that, nothing that. But you are going to maybe have some, opinions or philosophies expressed in a song that maybe you'd be better off just leaving for other people.
Yeah, we had a song not long ago that our Mike, who is our music director and program director, he sent it to me. He said, I want you to listen to this, because he said, I want to make sure that this is not that it was deep theological truths, but make sure it was theologically correct, that it wasn't saying something that was antithetical to the biblical truth. And so I listened to it and I said, yes, I could see what they're trying to say, but I just don't think that that's the message that we want to communicate.
Sure.
It wasn't encouraging. It was more of disparaging. And I said, even though it's a great song musically, I just don't think that's something we want.
Well, I know, and you have to be careful, because y'all are non-denominational, so you're not taking a particular
doctrinal stance.
Yeah, right. You're not denominational in the sense that it's not a Baptist station or whatever.
Yeah.
And even though it's based on the Seventh-day Adventist campus, it's not Seventh-day Adventist. It's pretty much just non-denominational Christian music.
Right.
But and so we have certain agreed upon Christian truths, and you have to make sure your songs align with that.
Yeah.
I don't know this story. You know this probably better than I do, but apparently there was a very popular song about 20 years ago by a group called From Avalon, and I remember the song. I can't remember the title now, but one of the former members of Avalon came out as gay, and he redid the song as in a different form, in a different understanding of it. And it was a big controversial deal.
Yeah,
and that and you have to respect your listeners you have to respect what the purpose of the station is.
And so that's the other thing about what we do. We want to make sure that the songs are songs that are biblical truths. We also want to make sure that any of the artists that we play are artists that would be of good reputation.
Right.
We're not looking for perfect people, because then we would have like nothing on the air, including me.
Right.
But we are looking for artists that are good sound, people that you can trust, that are not going to be reputation risks. If we play them on the air and then they see them in a tabloid, doing something that's not biblical, or it's unethical, it's immoral, whatever, then it's not something we would want to promote on the air.
Would you do a Christian song done by a secular artist?
It's interesting because we've had that discussion. Brandon Lake with Jelly Roll recently had a song. Right now we're playing a song with Brandon Lake and Nick Jonas.
Right.
Well, the reason we're playing that song, number one, it's a great song. It's talking about the author, that we're the pen in the hand of the author, God, writing the story. The reason we're playing that is because it's a Brandon Lake song. Nick Jonas is singing with him. I don't know that I would play a Nick Jonas song, even though he has ties to the Metroplex. If we're playing Nick Jonas and then somebody goes out to look for his music and hears something that's not, Christian.
These songs, do they need to be very overt? I mean, I'm thinking of a song right now Neil Diamond did about a decade ago called Pretty Amazing Grace. And for me, it's pretty obvious who he's singing about. Yeah. But you don't hear the words God or Jesus in it. But, you listen to the song, there's no other person really that he could be singing about other than Christ. All right. But we used to call those songs back in my high school days, Jesus is my boyfriend songs, because they would, it's the kind of song that if you didn't know the content, you might mistake that for your typical love song.
Yeah, we have a couple of songs that are not overt, but within the context of everything else that you hear, it makes sense.
Sure.
It's just a good song. The artist is a great artist. It's a good message. I heard we played one this morning on our show from I can't remember his name now because I'm trying to think of it, but the song is called Lift Me Up. And it's the whole song about I'm going through a hard time. I need somebody to lift me up and encourage me. It never mentions God.
Right.
But in the context of everything else that you hear on the journey, that he's referencing to God. It's much like the book of Ruth never mentions the name of God. Right. But in the context of the history of the book and everything else around it, that it's very God-centric.
And it's a very underrated book, actually. Yeah. I share teaching duties with another person in my Sunday school class, another gentleman, and I do the Old Testament, and I did Ruth, and I realized really the main character is Boaz, and that kind of thing, and so I learned something. But I go back to that Neil Diamond song. I know what he was talking about because I looked it up, and I know and I've read some stuff what's going on in his life. But he's not an evangelical in the sense that he's going to come out and strongly present the faith.
Right.
But I read some stuff, and where he's heading and stuff like that. But but a lot of those songs, but particularly back in the 70s and 80s, they're like, I want to praise the Lord and be commercially successful at the same time. Right, and if I say Jesus in this song, some programmers won't play it. Mm-hmm. And so they'll play a song, they'll write a song. And as a Christian, I understand he's talking about God. If I were a non-Christian, I think he's talking about, somebody else in his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it kind of turned us off a little. Mm-hmm. It's like either do it or don't.
Yeah. I appreciate artists. There are even some country artists and other genres too, but specifically country artists who are taking a stand in their faith. Mm-hmm. Now they're not going out and singing all Christian songs. They're singing theirs. But you'll also, Rascal Flatts is one of them that in their concert they're pretty much going to preach a sermon, and and then they'd lead into Broken Roads, the song "God Bless the Broken Roads." There's a lot of artists that are doing that these days. And the same thing with Christian artists that are, like Brandon Lake, are connecting with some of these secular artists, but they're not watering down the message in order to increase their popularity. Brandon Lake will even say, I am given the opportunity to speak into the lives of people that I may have never met, but because we're artists and we're coming together on this song, I can now have influence in their life, and hopefully that influence is to draw them closer to Christ.
Well, I remember when Amy Grant started writing some non-Christian music, not unchristian, but just not, not faith-based, and she did a video for MTV, and man, she took a lot of criticism.
She did. I was in Christian radio at the time, and it was a thing where people were like, we can't play her music anymore. And there just wasn't as much of an understanding as there is today of how much influence we can have in people's life. And if the music is, even if it's not overtly, with God or Jesus in the song, if it's a song that can encourage and minister to someone, then it can lead them to the message of the gospel.
Well, I think there's some real classic artists. Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley did a lot of gospel songs.
Yeah.
Now, I would not put them up as paragons of the Christian faith.
Right.
But I honestly believe that they were sincere in creating those songs and singing those songs. Willie Nelson, is the same way. There's some controversy about Willie, obviously.
Sure.
But he also, some of his gospel albums are pretty decent. The best gospel country album, period, is Alan Jackson. All right. I don't know if you know much about that, but boy, and it's very spared. It's not a lot of instrumentation. It's just good old school gospel, country gospel. And Randy Travis, same thing. Randy Travis has had some off the field difficulties, you might say, but should that disqualify him from being played on your station or other type of stations like yours?
Yeah, we are very protective about who we play on the air, and so we want to make sure that, like we say, the artist that you hear on the journey is going to be someone that you could go listen to any of their other music, and it wouldn't be a stumbling block to someone. It's going to be, so we're very protective on that. We do what we call narrow casting. So, we have a genre of music that is focused primarily on a specific demographic, because that's the people that we know, because you do have options. If back when community radio was a thing, you didn't have a lot of options, so you had to play a lot of everything for people to hear something that they liked. But now there are so many options. The only really way to set yourself apart is to narrowcast and say, if you're looking for this thing, I say all the time, and this is not a commercial for them, but it's like Chick-fil-A. When you go to Chick-fil-A, you're going to look for a specific thing no matter which Chick-fil-A you go to. A good chicken sandwich, good customer service, clean bathrooms. There's certain things, part of the culture. And so that's what we want to do at The Journey. We want it to be consistent enough that when you tune in, you're going to hear something that is consistent. Although we want to present new music and we want to talk about, like we don't talk about current events on the air. We just don't think that's our thing.
No.
That's not what people tune to The Journey for.
I would imagine even if there's a Christian message, if it also had a political content to it, you might probably pass on it.
The most political that we're going to get is to say, you know what, we have a responsibility as Americans to, number one, pray, number two, be informed, and then get out and vote.
Right.
We all have to do that. And so we encourage everyone to, let your voice be heard, get out and vote, pray about who you want, and vote for someone that is the closest to the values that you believe in that are biblical. Nobody's perfect, right?
Well,
I don't
that's true in politics.
I don't
these
agree
days.
with 100% of everything that people that I have voted for.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's hard to find a person. My wife and I don't even 100% agree on some things, and
Mine too.
We're pretty close. So it's really just about encouraging people to get out, be a part, have a voice. That's about as political as we get, and it really is, because we're not going to tell people some of that we can't. If we had one candidate on, we'd have to have the other one on, and we just don't want to get into that, because
Would that also violate your nonprofit status?
it could.
Yeah.
It could. The Johnson Amendment, came out years ago. You know more about this than I do, probably. That said,
Mid-60s.
look, well, that has been now repealed, and so
Right.
that's not in case.
Right.
However, I think the way people would see it is if you have one candidate, and you talk about that one candidate, they're going to say, "Oh, you're endorsing that candidate, and so you're saying that nobody else is good for this country." That's just not something we want to take time to do.
We get enough of that already.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you want to involve yourself in politics, there's Lord knows there's all opportunities to do it. But you don't want to turn on your Christian radio station and have them talking about it. And I think some radio stations have fallen into that trap.
Sure.
And
Well, there's money to be made there.
Yeah.
So if you're going to run commercials, you can run commercials for political candidates. And again, I'm not throwing shade at them. That's their bottom line is money. Our bottom line is mission. And our mission is to keep you encouraged with Christian music. And so we don't want to talk about or do anything that's not going to encourage you in that 15 or 20 minutes while we have your attention. We want you to be consistently encouraged, a laugh every now and then, maybe even be touched by a song. But we want that to be consistent.
well, it would be a problem. I don't even know. Not even the nonprofit status and the legalities and all that other stuff. But it's a problem in the churches as well. Not just the radio stations, but the churches have some of them. Not First Baptist, I'm glad to say, and I can't think of many in Burleson off the top of my head. And even if I did, I wouldn't say it. But I'm really coming up with no churches that I know of. But to line themselves up with either party or a candidate or a politician, there's only one name to be talked about in church, right?
Yeah.
I remember many years ago in Trump's first term, there was a guy in our congregation who'd wear inside the church, which is a bit uncouth, a Trump hat.
Yeah.
And I was offended. And it wasn't because it was Trump, because that's just so inappropriate, And I think the deacons went to him and said, "Look, buddy, you can't wear that hat in here. You can wear it all you want outside, and we don't care." I know several of the deacons that voted for him in 16, but you can't wear. There's only one name to talk about,
Yeah.
and it ain't Trump, or anybody else.
This is a place where we rally around Christ. We don't want to spend the time rallying around, and it could be polarizing, right? Somebody who's coming in who needs to hear about Christ, but they see that it offends them, and they won't come back.
Well, and they see the church or others, falling behind. I don't want to name. I have a church in mind right now in Dallas that has gotten very behind Mr. Trump, and it's like, no, you don't do that, because what about the people in your congregation that aren't on the same page as you politically? And what are you telling them? There's no place for them there in that church?
Yeah. I think because I've been in pastoral ministry for a long time as well, former senior pastor, executive pastor. My dad was a pastor. I believe the responsibility of the church is to communicate biblical truths, even if it's a current event. What is your stance on pro-life versus pro-choice? What is your stance on marriage? What is your stance on family? I think you look at the Bible, and yes, if you have political candidates that agree to that and they support that, that's great. But I think the biggest thing we need to make sure that we're learning at church and hearing at church is, what does the Bible have to say about it? No matter what political candidate is promoting this, let's talk about what the Bible has to say. And then, based on that biblical worldview, that's where we look at what candidates are available that closely line up to that biblical worldview, and that's who we vote for.
In my experience with First Baptist, the only two times I remember somebody from the pulpit expressing an opinion about what we call maybe a political issue was pro-life position because it was, I think it was in September, and that was the anniversary of Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
And also a few years ago, they had concerns about some of the changes in the liquor laws. And that was not a universally held opinion within the church. I remember when Burleson was talk about changing the laws to allow beer and wine in the grocery stores and stuff like that. And I was at a deacons meeting. The older deacons were like, demon run, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait a minute. The younger deacons like, we like Chili's. We like one here in Burleson too. So,
yeah.
But it was all, it wasn't acrimonious or anything like that. But I am grateful for my church and most others that have avoided taking pro-Republican or pro-Democrat stances because it pollutes the purpose of the church. And politics is dirty enough as it is. We don't need the church wallowing around the same pigsty as politics. And I look at candidates, both parties, that try to use justification and for the positions on the Bible, and that gets my antenna up. Is that because you're trying to get my vote, or does you really, are you a Christian man or woman and really believes that?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you never will know everything about everybody, right? So again, pray, and then be informed. Do as much research as you can with the people that you trust. They're going to give you information that's not slanted towards one candidate, but that it's biblical and accurate. Conservative, if that's the way you believe, which is the way I believe. Conservative, pro-family, pro-life.
Right.
And then do your research and then vote for the person. Again, I heard this said recently by a pastor, in fact, who does a podcast, and I heard it on his podcast. He said the thing that we have to do is we have to vote for the candidate that's available to us that is closer to the alignment of what we believe. There may be people who believe stronger, but if they're not the ones that are on the ballot, we need to vote for the one that's on the ballot. Because he said if we choose not to vote for either one on the ballot, we're basically voting for the opponent.
I've been told that a lot. Yeah. Because I have some concerns about the candidates this coming up.
Sure.
And that's a conversation for another time, for another type of show. But I do know that for the younger people, like my children, they don't have as much connection with the church at all anymore. And a lot of it is they don't often feel welcome. And I'm not advocating the church alter or distort sound doctrine just to get people in the pews. But I do think there needs to be a way of presenting that sound doctrine in a way that doesn't alienate younger generations. All right? Less judgmental tone, I guess, more understanding. But that, again, it doesn't mean you need to water down your views on Scripture, but you can't come across as this is the answer, and if you don't believe in it, then you're spiritually off or deformed or whatever word you want to use. So
people want to in a church, they want to first feel like they belong before they believe, right? Because even if they don't agree 100% with what's going on in a church or what's being taught, if it's a place where they feel like they belong and they're loved and they can grow, then they will come along to the belief part.
I'm going back to my church experiences, not so much First Baptist Burleson, but when I was much younger, it was a charismatic movement was really big. And I was very uncomfortable with it. And I would be uncomfortable with it now. But, that's a good way to put this. I didn't feel alienated from it.
Yeah.
And I still stayed with my church, even though that I thought some of the people's views on the gifts of the Spirit were not really the way it should be interpreted, that kind of thing.
That would be an interesting conversation between you and I.
Well, yeah.
Probably not for this show.
But it was the charismatic movement in the late 70s, early 80s was big in Waco as well.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I don't know, there was something about it that just did not connect with me. But I wasn't willing to say, you're in error, but it just didn't seem to me, that it was an appropriate interpretation of Scripture, but I could be convinced otherwise.
Sure.
I surely am not the authority on Scripture.
Yeah.
But, to kind of roll this back to what you were talking about before, you talk about the music and the artist have to live up to the ideals. Now we understand the artist has got his or her shortcomings.
Sure.
But you don't want to have a situation where, like you said, they do a Christian song, you put it on the air, and you find out, they don't live anything remotely like a Christian lifestyle.
Yeah.
And
that's where we really depend on our relationship with the record labels and with promoters, that they're keeping an eye on that kind of thing, because, we know what we know based on what we see in public, but that's where that relationship comes in with those record labels to say, we're going to trust you that you're going to present to us artists who are, in fact, I don't want an artist to be perfect. I want them to be transparent. I want them to be authentic. I want them to sing about their downfalls, their worries, their concerns, but then the redemption of, but then I turned to Jesus and here's where I found hope. I want to hear that because that speaks to me, but I don't want an artist that is, living this lifestyle of this devilish lifestyle and then coming back and saying, but yeah, Jesus still loves me anyway.
Or they put out a song that has Jesus in it. That's a money grab, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're trying to polish their reputation or whatnot.
It's their penance.
Their penance, I guess.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot about that in other genres. I see some of these rap artists, and then they talk about, Jesus is my, savior, but their lifestyles didn't show that at all.
Can I use this as a turning point here to talk about an artist that has really, he's really appealing to the younger generation, and he's very adamant about and vocal about Jesus. It's Forrest Frank. Who has
yes, of
local
course.
connection, of course, to Waco, graduate of Baylor.
You betcha, buddy. All right, we're rocking that green and gold. You got the promo there?
Well, he's got all kinds of doing all kinds of tours, and they're all selling out. He's going to be at Globe Life Field in Arlington on August 1st.
Is he going to sell that out?
It's sold out already. I mean, right after they announced it, it's sold out.
Holy, you're talking about the 47,000 seats?
Oh yeah.
Well, he
sold
rocketed
out
up
almost immediately. However, we have tickets that we're giving away. And so the only way to get tickets is through us. You can't buy them. But if you go to our website, 883thejourney.org, you click on the Forrest Frank banner. It'll take you to this page that you can see there. And it basically, you can scroll through the page, and it tells you more about the contest. But if you click that where it says enter to win now, you fill that out and you send it in. And then on Friday morning, July the 24th, Tanya and I are going to give away a family 4-pack of tickets to go see Forrest Frank in concert.
Holy moly.
Pretty cool.
I know Forrest Frank was popular because he played McLean Stadium.
Yeah.
But, I thought, and he sold it out, or come close to it. But I thought that's because of the Baylor connection, because he's, I think, graduated about a decade ago or something like that. I know he does promotional work for Baylor in their athletics and such as that. But I didn't realize he's that big.
Oh, let me tell you, these arenas are being sold out, and it is these young people that are coming to these concerts are on fire.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they are just on fire and excited about Jesus, and he's getting them pumped up, and he's encouraging them to go out and be an example and be a light in a dark world, and it's just really cool to see it happen.
And I think of somebody like a Forrest Frank, who's really connecting with people. I think the pressures on that young man must be immense.
Sure.
And I don't mean just from, producers. I'm talking about from the spiritual realm, because, all those temptations coming his way is going to be tough.
Yeah.
I pray for him personally that he's able to maintain his integrity, because it's very difficult.
Yeah.
There's another gentleman that I saw about 2 years ago, Matthew West. That guy put it together a really good concert.
Yeah.
And
he's good.
Yeah. And I was with another couple, and they were more into it, or at least the wife was, and my wife was. I mean, that was a really good concert.
Yeah.
It was over at a local church, but it was a big church, so it was probably about 5,000 people there. And so, but man, that's impressive. He sold out Globe Life.
Yeah, 883thejourney.org. You can see the Forrest Frank banner. Click on that. It'll take you to this landing page, and you can find out how to win tickets. We have on our community calendar, we have a concert calendar as well. Mercy Me is coming back. Amy Grant, Stephen Kirk Chapman, they're all going to be in the area very soon. Need to Breathe is in the area. So we try to stay on top of concerts. Ann Wilson is coming to town. We're going to have tickets. So we'll usually have tickets that we give away to these concerts. and then we'll try to be there to have a booth, and then maybe even get some stage time to let people know about the journey here at the concert.
When I first heard about Ann Wilson, I thought, Heart's coming to town?
Yeah, I know,
you
right?
know, you know, but no, not the same one.
Not the same one.
Not the same
A little
one.
younger.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, it sounds pretty exciting. I'm glad you're doing that, but I'm glad that Forrest Frank is taking off like he has.
Yeah.
And I'm really also glad that, again, I'm going back to my high school days. The idea of selling out even a mid-sized arena or auditorium was not even thought of. All these acts that I saw were playing. I think the Bronco Bowl was the biggest one. That was what, 5,000 seats?
I think so.
Yeah. Most of them were playing in churches or maybe small auditoriums or whatever. I saw Daniel Amos at a high school auditorium the second time. And so it just, I'm glad to see that they're now on par, so to speak, with some well-known acts, I guess if you want to call them, or the rest of the music world.
Well, it just shows you the demand for good Christian music. But again, a lot of these are artists who are very strong in their belief. They're overtly singing about not only Jesus, but really genuine, transparent songs about regular life struggles
Right.
that Jesus is the answer to.
Right.
And that's what's connecting with a lot of people.
I'm going to segue just briefly here, and then I'm going to let you have the last word.
Yeah.
I've been pushing this all summer, and that is the need for donations at the food pantries. We have 3 main ones here. I know there's some in Joshua and Cleburne, and they're welcome to give me their information if they hear this. I know Aaron Ash is over in Cleburne. Hey, Aaron, if you know anybody, send them in our direction. We'll talk about them too. But, summertime's a tough time for the food pantries because you got a lot of kids at home. They're not getting the school meals from and such as that. So they all need food that kids can access. Can of corn, that's great, but they're not going to eat it. I mean, for lunch.
Yeah.
I mean, SpaghettiOs, ravioli, peanut butter and jelly. Jelly seems to be a real hard one to keep on the shelves, according to my friends at Promises, which is the one I kind of focus on.
Yeah.
And I remember the last time you were here, you said, find your one you want to support and stay, because you were, you want donations as well, but
Sure.
But you understand that some people may have a heart for this particular ministry, and
Absolutely.
you wanted them to stay with that ministry.
That's the thing. There are so many nonprofits that are doing great work in this area. I think the biggest thing is just get behind one of them or 2 of them. Find something that is near and dear to your heart. If it's a food pantry, if it's Harvest House that's doing the resale store, that's also doing the classes, if it's a lot of other different ministries that are there, get behind them and support them. If it's great encouraging music and hope that you want, then support the journey. But yeah, the biggest thing is let's just get behind as many of these nonprofits. I do need to connect you with Suzanne at the Johnson County Food Bank, the Bread Connection.
Sure.
They're actually kind of a middleman to a lot of the food banks, and I just came across, I've known about them, but we just made a connection a while back.
Well, give her my contact information.
yeah.
I'll have her sit in your seat.
For sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
Because I tell this story a lot on the air to a lot of guests, but when I started this, it'll be 7 years in September. I was going to talk about politics and stuff like that, and it just kind of morphed over into this.
Yeah,
and I think that was the intention all along, whether I knew it or not. And and it's also exposed me to some genuinely decent people that are doing this.
well, except for the Burleson Chamber ladies, but we won't go there.
Oh, you won't go there.
Love you, Melissa.
Yeah, I always enjoy their show because basically I just say, "So how you doing?" And then
they take it.
and they take it from there. So
yeah.
So anyway, tomorrow I'm going to talk about the World Cup because, like I said, I was going to talk about Iran, but it's always changing. But I've been reading a lot and I've been seeing stuff about just how these Europeans really are taken to America, and it's like we needed that reminder, because we get all dialed in on our own politics and stuff going on in America, and we got a lot of angry Americans as the politics shows, and sometimes we forget not just how blessed we are, how other people live, and then we're not talking, they're talking like this Dutch guy comes in, and he's like, I can't believe the size of the food, and
right.
What gets to me also is free refills. I'll tell this story tomorrow too, but a week ago Wednesday, England and Czechoslovakia played, or Czechia, as old timers still call it Czechoslovakia. They played in Dallas, and I was coming home from Corsicana up 45 to hook on over to 287, et cetera, because I was visiting my mother. And we went to the Buc-ee's because, for the usual reason, I have my wife and daughter, and you can't pass the Buc-ee's without inspecting the ladies' room. And there's all these checks in there.
Yeah.
And I'm standing near the front door, and these two guys walk in, and they're, Lord.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
This is a gas station. And I talked to 2 or 3 others whose English was a little broken, but they loved it here.
You know what's interesting, and I'm sure you'll talk about this tomorrow, the perspective from at least one of them that I've seen online to say, we believed a narrative that was told us about America, and we're seeing the opposite of that.
I saw that clip. Was it a guy from Australia?
Yeah.
I saw that clip.
Yeah. That's amazing. That was encouraging to me. That, number one, I hate that there's all this, being said about America, but, but that he came and experienced it firsthand. My dad used to always say, a man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If I've experienced it, you can't argue any differently to me. I know that it's true.
I'll let you finish this off. Tell us what we need to know.
Okay. Well, again, listener supported 88.3 The Journey. We'd love. It doesn't cost you anything to listen to the radio, so I don't want you to take that away. You can listen anytime at 88.3 FM. We cover all of Johnson County, southern Tarrant County, basically. So anywhere in that area, you can listen on the radio. We have an app. You can download the app and listen anywhere in North Texas. There's no static on the app. And so we'd love for you to do that. A lot of people listen through Autoplay and CarPlay and Android, Apple, all the stuff that I don't really understand.
All the stuff, yeah.
So you can listen that way. The biggest thing is listen, be encouraged, pray about it. If the Lord leads you to, we'd love for you to give. And in today, even though tomorrow's the last day, really, if you give today, it'll still be able to be processed within this fiscal year. But today really kind of is the last day on this dollar-for-dollar match. We have $2,400 at last check that is available still to be matched dollar for dollar.
Would those dollar for dollars be matched on like some of your recurring monthly, or is it got to be specific for that?
Specific one time. So if you did a $30 a month, your one-time gift of $30 is matched.
Okay.
And then if you give every month, so we're looking for special one-time gifts today, and you can give it at our website, 883thejourney.org. Up at the top right-hand corner, there's a Give Now button, and you can click that.
You may not know this, but Josh actually is independently wealthy.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, and
I knew I liked Josh.
And he has a lot of money.
It's all that in the coffee business. I think is where he made all this money.
So if you want to shake him down
coffee
later,
business, definitely not the offshore accounts.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
we won't talk about those.
We call him Mr. Cayman Islander out here.
Okay,
but,
all right.
All right.
Well, he and I will talk as soon as we get done here. But yeah, you can see right at the top there where it said the Give Now button is pulsing there. You can click Give Now. Forrest Frank tickets. We try to keep a lot of information on our website that'll let you know about what's going on. Candace Cameron Bure is going to be
my
in
wife
Prayer.
Loves her.
Yeah. Let me know. We might could get her some tickets.
Yeah, right.
You have connections.
She loves that Miss Bure for a lot of those movies she likes.
Yeah. Yep.
I still did not like Full House. I'm sorry. I didn't like that. I thought it was goofy. But my wife loved it. My daughter loved it. They liked the new version of it, Fuller House, I think it was called, all that stuff. So there you go. But she would be pretty excited if I got those tickets.
Now I think everybody that was in that show, the new version of that, I think is called Nursing Home. I don't know.
Nursing Home, pretty close, or like Fullest House.
Yeah. Right.
All right, Josh, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Josh.
I got some clips for y'all tomorrow. Cause talking about some of the things, I don't know if that particular Australian fellow's on, but I know several others were talking about, my gosh, look at this. Look at the size of this hamburger, chicken fat steak.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of their experience has to do with food, but that's okay. That's all right.
Well, they also were talking, what I saw also, they were talking about air conditioning and, all this other stuff.
That's amazing.
Particularly since Europe is in the heat wave. Well,
I'll try to watch tomorrow. I'll chime in on my thoughts.
Well, do your best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're busy.
Yeah.
Thank y'all, and we will see y'all tomorrow at 11 o'clock.